What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Dana White breaks silence on UFC 300. UFC CEO Dana White took a long time to announce that the main event of UFC 300 will be a light heavyweight championship bout between Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira. Hill having a chance to recapture the light heavyweight strap after being forced to vacate it following an injury playing pickup basketball last summer provides a compelling main event. But White, who laughingly said that this is the most anticipated card in UFC history, guess he forgot about UFC 229 between Conor and Khabib, said that he's proud of the depth that they've assembled. While sitting in as a guest on Las Vegas Raiders star Max Crosby's podcast, he said while he isn't sure this event will break any financial records, he believes it could be the deepest card in UFC history.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely the most anticipated, that's for sure. I mean, I am just getting tortured right now for this main event. Everybody's going crazy. They're dying to know the main event. And it's not like I'm dragging this thing out because, you know, I think it's funny or something. It's just people don't realize how hard this business really is to pull these fights together and to do a card like this with all the other things that we got going on, with all the other businesses that, you know, I'm running and involved in. It's madness.
White believes that any of the fights on the UFC 300 card taken by themselves could be a fight that would main event a fight night or another pay-per-view event. That's a tough promise to deliver on. But with the main event settled and the number of current and former champions involved in UFC 300, it should set the stage for compelling theater. Next up, let's take a look at Sean Strickland for Robert Whittaker next. Seeing Robert Whittaker bounce back during his UFC 298 scrap with Paulo Costa felt right. The former UFC middleweight champion has taken on the task of fighting the division's best over the past few years of his career and may be back on the path to a title shot with just a few more victories. Whittaker's bounce-back win over Costa drew the attention of Extreme Couture head coach Eric Nicksick. Nicksick told MMA Junkie that one of his star pupils, former middleweight champion Sean Strickland, would be open to fighting Whittaker next. Strickland is coming off a decision loss to Dricus du Plessis. Whittaker also lost to du Plessis last year, though Whittaker lost via knockout.
I think it's a great fight. I still think Robert's the most talented from top to bottom in the division, in my opinion. I think has the most skill set and most dangerous, if you ask me. So I've always been a huge fan of Robert Whittaker. I've stolen a lot of techniques off of him. You know, things that he's done. I've seen him in the locker room warming up, doing things that I put in my database. You know, and taken for good reason. I think he's one of the best 185ers to ever do it. And I think had it not been for Israel Adesanya, you know, Robert Whittaker would have been holding that belt for a long period of time.
While Nicksick's respect is obvious for Whittaker, Strickland's loss to du Plessis was narrow enough that he may feel he should get an immediate title rematch. If Israel Adesanya returns to take on du Plessis for the title, fighting Whittaker would make a lot of sense for Strickland. Next up, let's take a look at Illia Topuria calls out Islam Makhachev. Being 15-0 and the featherweight champion of the UFC isn't enough for Spanish star Illia Topuria. Following one more title victory, Topuria would like an opportunity to fight UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev. Topuria told Spanish media that Makhachev would be in danger of losing his title. The final objective is still there, Topuria said. He's in trouble. Makhachev has set a precedent for being willing to take on super fights. Since Makhachev beat Charles Oliveira at UFC 280 in October 2022, he has not defended his championship against someone in his weight class. Makhachev only has 2 victories against them, which both came against former featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski. Topuria knocked out Volkanovski at UFC 298 to take the title from the Australian. Topuria now has his eyes on what other prizes he can bring home during his career. Next, let's take a look at Henry Cejudo breaks silence on retirement. Defiant as ever, former 2-division UFC champion Henry Cejudo posted a video to his YouTube channel saying he's not retiring. The former Olympic gold medalist wrestler lost both of his fights since returning to the octagon following a 3-year absence from the sport. Cejudo's recent loss at UFC 298 to Merab Dvalishvili had Triple C questioning if he should head back to retirement. But Cejudo has suffered consecutive losses before. The thought of how well he performed when returning to the sport has him optimistic about continuing to fight.
I am not leaving. Guys, yeah, Saturday night, dude, it took me a minute. Was it all or nothing for me? Yeah, and I meant to, or did I really, but have I truly been a hypocrite to myself? You know, the last time I can remember, the last time that I lost 2 times in a row, I lost to Demetrius Johnson, and then I lost to Joseph Benavidez. I went down and I created one of the biggest rampages in UFC history.
Now, let's shift gears and take a look at Shavkat Rakmonov gets called out for UFC fight. Shavkat Rakmonov has spent his burgeoning MMA career in the middleweight UFC division, causing all the men who share the cage with him to have nightmares. 18 times that Rakmonov has stepped into the cage for a professional fight, and all 18 times Rakmonov has come away with a submission or knockout victory. Rakmonov's success has provided the opposite effect. Now, he is the dream opponent for anyone below him in the rankings who wants to try and make a name for themselves. Australian star Jack Della Maddalena, who is 16-2 in his career and unbeaten in the UFC, would like to build his reputation by beating Rakmonov. Della Maddalena is familiar with Rakmonov because they're both teammates at Kill Cliff FC. Della Maddalena said to Submission Radio he believes a win over Rakmonov would put him on the road to a championship match.
My dream matchup is fight Shavkat Rakmonov in Perth and be my 5-rounder for the title, or for the title eliminator sort of fight. I think he's the toughest fighter in the division outside myself. I think that's where the big challenge lies. Obviously, of course, Gilbert, I'm looking at that 100%, but if I think of the next toughest guy, Shavkat Rakmonov.
JDM still has to get through the former title challenger at UFC 299 before plotting his future course. If he beats Burns, a fight with Rakmonov may be possible. However, a loss to Burns will put that type of future fight in jeopardy. Next, let's take a look at Sean Strickland responds to Joe Rogan. Sean Strickland beating up a streamer, Sneeko, hasn't been well received by the general public or the MMA community. However, Strickland isn't someone who spends too much time worrying about how he's perceived. He did, however, take the opportunity to respond to Joe Rogan's criticism of his fight with Sneeko on the Joe Rogan Experience by posting a video on X, formerly known as Twitter.
It bothers them because they want to be special. They want me to be special. You go look at sporting events, you go look when they eat dinner, they are treated like they are special. But that is designed that way, and they want you guys to know that you're not special. They want you guys to know that when you're sitting in that nosebleed seat, you're not special. Even though you are the motherfuckers that finance this sport, they want you guys to know that you suck. When I go and wrestle a guy on the ski slopes, that is awesome, man. I love the fact that you woke up, you went snowboarding, you see me, so I want to fight this man. I love it, I respect it.
Strickland is an odd personality in MMA. He believes in honor with fighting. Strickland also isn't afraid to accept the challenge of fighting with someone who he knows has no business being in front of him. But like Strickland says in the video, he loves fighting and people who challenge themselves to try and fight someone with more experience than them. It's twisted logic, but there's some honor in there somewhere. Strickland, no matter his level of success, remains the same person he's always been, free-spirited with a strong streak of independence. Conor McGregor gets accused of cheating by the MMA community after the Blonde Bomber, Ebony Bridges, posted a picture on Twitter with Conor saying it was an incredible night with him. Here's what the community had to say. Defo smashed. He's so shagging you. What does D think of him being balls deep in the bomber? We all know you're always going to be the side chick, just a bit of to smash then send home so he can spend the quality time with his wife. Are you sure it's just the food? You hope the notorious MMA don't divorce his wife because of you. Out together again. The Blonde Bomber replied saying, "That's what friends do." Top comments. Bo Nickel literally fights trash cans who can't defend themselves from his striking. Dude lives in his world. Pajeda gonna give Jamal some sweet dreams. Man's a unit. Violence definitely incoming though. I'm 54, someone should tell old mate Tony that the mind is right to fight at 45, but the body is steps slower from 35. Bo Nickel isn't interesting. Media tries to hype him, but name a great fighter he's finished. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.